Is there any,
There is a program through state farm that we can go back to them and national company with background checks.
Yep.
So, also,
Yeah, it's way more efficient.
it's pretty.
so there's no drawback to you, to doing it that way, going with the online first, and then if something gets flagged, go to local?
Yeah, there's a little gap, it doesn't, if there's a conviction somewhere in Utah, it doesn't show up tomorrow on the online database. It might not show up for 2 or 3 weeks, so there's that gap, so.
However, would local law enforcement know about it tomorrow if somebody was just
No,
convicted?
and I'm not sure if it's even 2 or 3 weeks, if we know that.
Typically, our law enforcement ones would know if they had been involved in something rather than convicted of. And HUD had just put out a PIH notice that I sent to you in November that they don't want us to use arrest records to keep people out of housing. They may not be convicted.
Okay,
That was one of the reasons we used law enforcement to see if they'd ever been arrested for something or been involved in it.
But HUD has changed their
They've
approach,
changed
yeah.
their approach to want to include more people and give them a chance.
So what does HUD stand then? If we follow this protocol, do the online, and there is that lag time, so let's say somebody does something today, we check on it tomorrow, and it comes back saying we don't see anything, and then we find out later that something had happened, what's HUD's response to that if they were to be approved and put in the?
Kind of the same response is, once they're drawn, we don't check it, because it'll be probably 5 or 6 weeks before they get into housing, 7 weeks. Once they've been screened, we don't go back and check during that period of time. Once they move in, we're hope that our law enforcement will pick it up. They have a list of all of our clients, and they send us faxes every night if any of our tenants were involved in an issue. But I don't know how you can be 100%.
Yeah, there's no more risk than,
Okay,
Yeah, there's no more risk in there.
but HUD can't turn around, come back at us and say,
no.
No, they're-
Actually, we're behind on the protocol that they're wanting us to do,
To allow people in.
yeah.
so we would need a
We're
motion.
stricter than HUD is telling us to be.
Yeah,
We are more.
right.
Now, we're speaking of background checks for,
Criminal.
Criminal.
I meant for, not for tenants.
Yeah,
This is-
prospective tenants,
Tenants, yeah.
We are doing tenants,
Yeah.
yeah.
applications.
And we do credit also. We run it just so we know what kinds of issues there are, but
Yeah.
we don't typically deny people for credit because that's why they need us. They don't have money.
We have to submit our admin plan to HUD, right? To review
Yeah.
annually, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's what.
Yeah, and this would be our ACOP too. ACOP is our public housing, admin is our section 8. It would be in both of them.
Oh, okay.
It would have the same language that we would ask to change.
Okay.
So we would need a motion to approve this language change.
I'll make the motion.
And moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on changing it as it's outlined here in the red? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. And the new lives, okay. I sent out to everybody an evaluation form. We've got it. Can you set up a meeting for the Board of Commissioners to meet and go over Lynn's evaluation form? And then from there, we'll have you join us too. Tana, did you send yours back to me?
Yes, by the way.
Okay.
Did you get it?
I still have mine.
Yeah, I haven't gotten yours or yours. Let me double check. I couldn't get,
I'll resend.
thank you, I would, appreciate that, just because I couldn't see it on the one, but I don't know if that was because I was not at the actual, yeah, resend it. Okay. Okay, so you will send out, whatever you call that, to see what would work for people, for me, okay. Okay, and then we have, training. We have 8 people for PIC training in St. Cloud. Scott to go to,
Caster line training,
yeah,
caster lines are, oh yeah, I have, and all this stuff printed out.
Oh.
Anyways,
okay. And then,
public housing and Section 8 accounting and specific, industry accounting, so.
St.
I mean,
Louis.
they have a really a pulse on what's going on with HUD.
Well, I know you came back from that last training,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
and,
Our finance officers have always went to
time well
Caster Line
spent.
and
And,
they know much more than I do.
and then
They
also
know ahead
to
of time.
add in their employees to attend the Jamestown,
For housing and public housing.
yes, yes.
I'm sorry, I have another meeting at 3:30, so
Okay.
if you need me to call in, let me know.
thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. So, we would need a motion to approve the 8 to the St. Cloud, caster line training, and then, do we know how many people for Jamestown?
Yeah,
They're gonna just look at their schedules and see who can get out and,
Okay,
How many people are going to St. Louis?
one.
Just one,
Scott.
just you, okay.
yes,
So, you got St. Cloud's, St. Louis, and Jamestown?
correct. Yes,
We've got funds to do it, so I say I make the motion that we approve the travel requests, the additional travel requests as identified.
okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The last thing I have is Sister's Path. What's going on with that?
Sister's Path is, there's been a change in Medicaid reimbursement. They will no longer pay for addiction counseling. So about half of the tenants out that they're serving out there were relying on Medicaid to pay for their counseling. So they're in financial trouble. They've got, a facility and a staff that's sized up to serve 80 people and only serving about 40. On the Sisters Path component, so this is Share House generally, their parent body, and they've been subsidizing the Sisters Path supportive housing since it opened. So they can no longer afford to staff Sisters Path to the level that they have been. So we've had a meeting with, and BSI and Share House are jointly partnering on Sisters Path and have some obligations to funders. A lot of the funding that came in, well, HUD funding came into it and Federal Home Loan Bank funding came into it with the stipulation that it stays as a supportive housing project.
For how many, for 20 years?
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're only in like year 12 or 13 now. And both of those entities require repayment if they're not served, if they cease to do that. So, and so BSI and Share House are jointly on the hook for that. If we can't figure out a way to continue to provide services. So we've had some meetings that working towards that. It won't look just like it has looked, but we're thinking we can provide some services from the community enough that we can't, we're not gonna have a nurse in there, we're not gonna have on staff addiction counselor, but we can work something out, we think, with Share House that some of that will be provided, enough that satisfies HUD. And Joe was part of the conversation with HUD and I wasn't, so maybe we can elaborate on that.
We would need to go, again, that lower VI SPDAT score, it's a homeless project. Sisters Path was on the very lowest tier of being funded for North Dakota this year. So they may or may not get their entire packet of 150,000 for supportive services. They may not get all of it.
So why were they so far down on the list?
Because they had told the continuum of care that they really didn't want to work with them.
They've always
Made it.
balked at the restrictions that are associated with these funds. And they're always trying to,
Who has this man?
yeah, they're trying to.
What's really share house?
Share house, yeah.
Sure.
They don't like the vouchers, they don't like the tax credit or the.
They don't like the tax credits.
Continuum of care.
Tax credit says, you gotta have a long-term lease, and they want to treat people and get them out so they can bring the next person in that needs it.
And yet it was never set up for that. It was always set up from the very beginning to
Yeah.
be
Supportive
Yeah.
housing.
Yeah, but, and from the very beginning, they've tried to find ways around that. So,
It wasn't a good.
or they would take, or they would, I'm sorry?
So in terms of doing what they have to do to be in compliance, they didn't want to do those things as far as.
No, they were always more advocating for the tenant, and if we could find a way to serve the tenant, forget the rules,
I'll forget it.
Yes, yeah. Or an example, that a lot of times we've got some fairly desperate households that they really need the shelter, and so they would go, well, here's two moms, they each got one or two kids, they're willing to live together. Well, no, you can't, the tax credit rules say no, you gotta look at both these incomes and whatnot, and you can't overcrowd an apartment, you can't have more than two per bedroom, and it's okay with the moms, well, it's okay with them, but it's not okay by the rules, so we have to enforce the rules. Those kinds of things.
So who would supply, you said, wouldn't be on site, but there would be like,
Well, they're not, right now we have 24-hour staff there. But Share House is connected, Share House has 24-hour staff. And we're connected by a hallway to our facility, to Sister's Path, so we can figure something out. There's offices there, if we can they can use the offices at no cost.
So
They have a
HUD
presence in the building.
and Share House and BSA, I think, are all okay with us continuing to use it for homeless families that need some kind of support services. So at this point, we have, out of the 12 units, we have 5 empty. So we have our VI SPDAT meeting at the library on Thursday, and we will be pulling, I pulled them already to look, and there were 8 families that would meet our criteria. I don't know if they'll work, but they're more, instead of, 17s, which Sister Path were, they're more in that 11 to 8. They might even be lower, that might work.
meaning that they're a little bit.
They don't have an eviction issue,
Okay.
which makes it, you go down a lot without addiction, but they have needs. They probably have a disability of some sort. They may have disabled children, homeless. They would meet the criteria, the HUD homeless criteria. In Denver, HUD says that's fine. We don't care, it doesn't have to be addiction.
Oh, all
And
right.
typically, they don't even ask, they don't want a program to specify just addiction. It can be any kind of issues. We work with YWCA with lots of programs, like the Justice Program for homeless women who went through abuse. That's one, we'll be pulling from them. They'll be there tomorrow, and they have about 8 families that meet our criteria. So looking to see, Nate will be coming from Share House, Randy will be coming from BSI, and see if we can't get that, at least during the transition, to get our units filled again. Financially, it isn't in good shape because of it being empty, in and out, so. Beautiful, beautiful offices and community rooms there, big playground, nice parking. That's just a fabulous place. Anyone, I think, would be lucky to live there.
Yeah. We'll keep you up to date with that, so.
Yeah, okay. Is there any other new business? If not at this time, then we'll,
I guess I would say one thing. At the next meeting, Lynn, thank you for sending out that staff evaluation update. At the next meeting, I would request that if we could have an updated report on staff performance reviews. And the other thing I would suggest, Sarah, if you could work with Lynn on this, I think it needs to be identified, a column that identifies who's the person supervisor responsible. And then you need to put in there the date and put those two columns on that Excel spreadsheet. That'll give us a lot more accurate information in terms of what needs to be done and where we're at with the process. So
Okay.
if we could have that report next week, or
Next
next month,
meeting,
I'd
yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay, at this point then, we will adjourn the regular board meeting and go into executive session.